Being a TCK is a unique experience of never fully fitting in wherever you are, but at the same time always managing to blend in.
Hello. It's another episode of Let's Unpack That. I'm Sojourner, social worker, travel blogger, and today I have an interview with you with Cinnamon from On the Road with Cinn to talk about what it's like being a third culture kid. I wanted to learn more about what that means, what that's like. Let's check out the video to see what I'm talking about. Hello, welcome to Let's Unpack That. We're happy to have you. Do you mind introducing yourself and telling us what you're passionate about?
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is Cinnamon. My friends call me Cinn or Canelita, depending on where I am. I work for an international organization based in Washington, D.C. My go-to, which are my true love languages, are coffee, carbs, and champagne. Lived in 7 different cities in 5 different countries, and I'm currently in DC.
So today we're talking about third culture kids, and I felt like this is not an identity people generally think about, but it is one that affects how you see yourself. So for those who don't know what a third culture kid or a TCK is, can you give us some background and explanation?
Third culture kid, also known as a TCK, is definitely a more rare identity and something many people don't know about. It's essentially someone who was raised in a culture other than their parents or their country of their birth or passport for a significant portion of their time. And so simply put, TCKs are people who have grown up across multiple cultures and countries and therefore rarely identify with just one.
So with that and bouncing between countries and cultures, what do you think of the question, like, where are you from? Because I imagine it's kind of layered.
Absolutely. So the number one joke and commonality among TCKs is how you answer, where are you from? You pause, you think about it. Do you name the country you were born in? Do you name the country your parents are from? And I personally struggled with that a lot growing up. I would name the country I lived in. I would name the country of where my mother is from. So for a little background, I am the daughter of a Belizean mother and an Uruguayan father. And I went to elementary school in Belize, middle school in Costa Rica, and high school in Panama. I wanted to have an easy answer. And so I began telling people I was from Belize because that is where my mother was from, that's where her whole family is from, and where I felt often at home. And so if I don't feel like giving you the full answer, that's what you're gonna get. What I love seeing now is more TCKs embracing the notion that you don't have to put yourself in a box. You're allowed to say I'm from many places because that's the truth.
So thinking about your time traveling elementary, middle school, high school in 3 different countries, what were your most impactful TCK experiences?
Perhaps in general, the ability to become more adaptable to changes, to cultures. My first big move from Belize to Costa Rica, I was about 7 or 8 years old, and I would define it as traumatic. I felt like the world was ending, that it was different than anything I had experienced in Belize, but every move after that became so much easier. And so that experience of adaptability really stands out in my upbringing. I see how I interact now as an adult, and it was definitely shaped by those experiences. Depending on who you are, what your background is as a TCK, you can sometimes be moving every 2 to 3 years. And I think that's very difficult in your formative years because you're making new friends, you're leaving significant others, your first love interest behind, and that can be upsetting. The flip side of it that I've come to embrace is home might not be a specific place, but it's many people in many places, and there's great beauty to that experience.
You mentioned going from place to place. So how did that impact your sense of identity and belonging as a TCK who moved around so much?
Being a TCK is a unique experience of never fully fitting in wherever you are, but at the same time always managing to blend in where you are. In terms of your identity, TCKs should not conform. I think as a young person, I definitely tried to do that, and now I don't feel that pressure as much. You can be half of two identities, which children of mixed race parents, mixed cultures, that's already a unique identity that many in the United States may experience. When you have that already, but you're living in the same place, you form a unique identity that I think is common in the American experience. But you have a Belizean mother with a Caribbean culture. I have an Uruguayan father, a very South American unique culture, even within the region. And then you plop a child down in Malaysia, and you will notice that they crave, when you're sick, the food you crave might not be the food of your parents, but it's the food of where at certain formative years was the thing you ate when you were sick, because that's the remedy of that country per se. A TCK is a result of everywhere you've been. You're a little bit of every place you've lived.
Part of my research before this episode was looking into what is it like being a TCK, and it seemed like language learning was a big part of people's experiences. So can you share what it was like having to learn different languages or to adjust to different dialects?
I think what's really funny and is also a shared experience is accent switching. So many TCKs will relate to your accent completely switching depending on who you're speaking to. And to others that might seem ingenuine or forced or fake. I speak to my parent this way, and I speak to my friend from childhood this way, and I speak to my brother this way. Because when you've spent significant years certain places, you pick up the tonalities and accents, even if you might not be fully fluent in some of the languages. I think the language is definitely a huge part and benefit of being a TCK. I'm trilingual and a half. So I'm trilingual fluent in English, Spanish, and Creole, which is the native language of Belize. And my half is French.
Let's unpack that. We talk a lot about social identity. And I know you identify as mixed race as well. And so how does all of that, on top of being a TCK, how has being mixed race impacted your traveling?
In my particular experience as a mixed race person, I feel that I have a level of privilege that comes from being ethnically ambiguous. It seems to be that I can fit in many places and many cultures because of the way I look. Where that became very evident to me was right before the beginning of the pandemic. I went to a work trip in China, and there were people from all over the world in this group that we were together for 2 weeks. More than half the group told me that I looked like their sister. I look like a friend. And these are people from all over the world. And I'm thinking, how can I look like someone from Nepal and from Brazil and Sri Lanka? And it was true. If depending on who I was standing next to in the group, people would approach me and speak that language. I do think there is an interesting privilege I have found in that, because it means that when I travel and exist in the world, that I can blend in and out of groups of people more easily, and I can travel maybe a bit more unnoticed. And that certainly is a privilege in and of itself.
So now, it is the lightning round. Destination with the best food.
Food, Italy, by far.
One thing travel has taught you about yourself.
Open-minded.
One travel privilege that affects how you travel.
Speaking English.
One word to describe what travel means to you.
Connection.
Your favorite travel experience in 3 words.
Wine tasting Italy.
One destination that you haven't been to that you would love to visit.
South Africa.
One book or podcast or resource that you're loving right now.
The Guilty Feminist.
Your travel superpower.
Making friends.
What do you want your impact on the world to be?
More love and inclusivity.
That is it for this episode. Thank you so much for being on. Can you let people know where they can connect with you?
For the best coffee, best carbs, best champagne, best travel tips, you can follow me on my Instagram account, On the Road with Cinn, or on my own blog where I go more in depth at ontheroadwithcinn.com.
Thank you so much, Cinnamon.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a great conversation.
Thank you for watching this video. Leave any comments or reflections or even cues to Cinnamon for being on Let's Unpack That, and I will see you all at my next video. Stay curious. Bye.